Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's G from Happiness and Crafting. So today I'm going to be doing a lovely simple mixed media. Now lots of you have asked if I could sort of like do one where you can sort of like work along with me. Now, which is quite difficult with mixed media because it's a sort of almost like a spontaneous type of work, but I'm going to try and do it that you can sort of like work along with me and show you sort of like how I do it. Now, the first thing I thought I would use was one of my Friday freebies. Now, this is the one with a lovely little ballerina. It's sort of like a collagey one. I'll pop the link below. Now, this is free to print off on my Facebook group. Now, if you're not in my Facebook group, you can purchase this from my Etsy store or Ko-fi. But I'll pop the links down below, and they're in sets of 4. So you won't just get this one, you'll get another 3 other ones as well. Really, really inexpensive. So that's what I'm going to be using for the actual sort of main bits. Whether I use all of them, I don't know. But I'm definitely going to use the little ballerina because I think she's just so beautiful. I've also got some little bits of scrap paper. Now you can use anything that you've got for the scrap paper because I'll probably cover this up anyway with some gesso. Now the paper that I'm using is, let me just get my big pad of paper here. It's the Canson one. I hope you can see this. Can you see this? Yeah, it's A3. It's 300 GSM, which is 184 pounds. And it's lovely. It's a really nice textured paper. But again, use any sort of mixed media paper that you've got, or quite a thick paper. Now I've cut it down. I've cut a piece off, and it's 8 inches by 9 inches, which I think is roughly 20 by 23 centimeters. So I don't want it too big. So I'm going to use white gesso. So I'm using this Galleria one, but you can, gessos are pretty much the same, so you can use any one. And for the glue, I'm using the ultra matte medium, but again, you can use anything, any glue that you've got to glue your little bits and pieces down. Now the ink I'm going to use, so I'm not going to use a huge amount of stuff. I'm going to use the Iridescent Bright Gold. Now this is 5 Liquitex inks. They're acrylic inks. I'm going to use the Iridescent Rose Gold. I'm going to use the Transparent Raw Umber, Muted Pink, and the Muted Grey. Now I'll pop a link under the video for those as well. So I want to keep it quite sort of like easy for you. Now the only brush I'm going to use is this one, which is a sort of like a decoupage brush, and that's just to glue the bits and pieces down. To pop the ink on, I just use like little cards. Now this is like a store card. Look at the state of these ones. They're well used. So this is all I'm going to use. So it's quite simple. So if you don't have one of these little cards, just use a piece of nice sturdy cardboard or something like that. So let's just make sure I'm in the right place like that. So all I'm going to do to start with is just do a little sticking underneath. Now I put my glue into a little pot, just a little yogurt pot. I'm going to just stick some bits down. So it's entirely up to you where you stick it, where you pop bits and pieces, but I'm just going to stick a little bit, just to give us a little bit of a sort of a background, because I like to just, I don't know, it just gives it a little bit of depth, a little bit of texture underneath, before we add our focal points. Now I'm not the best mixed media artist at all, but I really enjoy doing it. So lots of you have asked me if I could sort of like show you what I use properly and see if we can sort of like craft along with me, or paint along with me, or whatever you would call it. I'm going to just use a little bit of this. This is just some of my papers that I've used. Like I've just got some Posca pens that I've just drawn onto a little bit of tissue paper, which I think I might do a little bit of a mixed media one, and just do some sort of papers that we can actually use in mixed media. But I think that looks quite nice, doesn't it? So let's just, I'm just going to add it into a little section, and then I'm going to pop these on afterwards. Maybe I'll pop a little bit. I think I might pop it a little bit just down here. Just there like that. Because I want to get some nice ink, a little bit of colour on there. Now, what I've done, I forgot to say, is I actually have this piece of card, and this is a back of one of my mixed media pads of paper, because you can see that. And I've just stuck the piece of mixed media paper down with some masking tape, just leave a little edge, and that just sort of like, it makes it a lot easier to work on, and it stops it sort of buckling too much. It does buckle a little bit, but you can wet it first and it sort of like goes a little bit more solid, but I like it like this. That's fine by me because it's just a quick one. Now I'm going to take my heat gun, my grubby little heat gun, and just dry that a little bit. Go just a little bit. Now I'm going to get some gesso. I'm going to get one of my grubby little cards, and then I'm going to just drag it down. Just drag it down through your, nothing special. Take some on your card, and then just drag it down. Really super simple, just so you cover up a little bit of it, and it gives it a nice background, and adding the gesso brings out the sort of colour in your ink a little bit better, I think, anyway. So let's just scrape a little bit off. I've used music paper, but you can use book paper. That's fine. Whatever you've got. Don't go out and buy anything too much for the papers that you're going to use on the back. So let's just quickly dry that again. Okay, so that's pretty dry on there now. So what I'm going to do is go in with a little bit of colour. Now I'm going to use the muted grey. Now the muted grey it's got a sort of like a purpley tint to it, so I don't want too much because it's quite dark. So I'm just going to go down a little bit like that. I'm going to take my nice clean card and just drag it. So all as we're going to be doing is sort of like dragging colour down. Just a minute. Now you can also use watercolour paint. So if you don't have any of these inks, just use some watercolour paints or whatever paints you've got. And it's so simple. Just drag some down. Now I will be going down with a little bit more gesso because I do like my gesso on here. So don't worry if it's too dark. You can always go over it with some gesso or white paint. You don't have to have gesso. You can use a little bit of white paint on here as well. So let's just add a bit of colour. Now, loving that. Come back in and sort of like go in, look, with your little ballerina. We have this beautiful pink. These are some flowers on here, so that's why I picked the pink, because it's got that lovely colour in it. And we've got, of course, we've got the beautiful butterflies. So just sort of like keep sort of like looking at it and seeing what you think, or you can just go in and just add colour. You can always dull it down, like I said, with some gesso. So I'm just going on there with a little bit of the, this one is the Raw Umber. So let's go back in, drag a little bit down. So there's not even any painting. You don't even have to know how to paint. This is the nice thing about sort of like mixed media and stuff. You can just do what you like. Now I'm going to quickly dry that. Perfect. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit more gesso just to sort of dull that down just a little bit. Let's pop. I'll just make a nice big mess with my gesso. I just dip it in the pot. But again, you can just pop it on a little palette or a little plate or anything. Whoopsie daisy. Let's just go through this. Look at that. I just think that's lovely already. Now I'm going to just dry that again so we don't mix the colours up too much. Now this bit I've tried to leave sort of like clear, just so we can pop her on here like that, and maybe a little bit of this music paper just on top, and I just think that looks really lovely. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in with this iridescent rose gold just to give it a little bit of sort of sparkle, just a little bit of something coming in. Now all I'm doing, I'm just dragging them downwards, so it's really, you know, it's nothing to it. Just pop the paint on, the ink on, or whatever you're going to be using. Can you see that beautiful colour? Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of gold in there as well, because I just think these are just stunning. Just adds a nice little bit of something in there, doesn't it? Oops, super simple. Just a little bit of, look at that. Now that gold works well with the vintage style, doesn't it? Can you see? So I'm just going to quickly dry that again. Perfect. Now again, I'm going to use what's left on my card. Just go in there a little bit, just like that. Doesn't have to be too much, just a little bit. Love it. Right, shall I dry that? Let me just quickly dry that, make sure it's dry properly. Perfect. Right, now we've got our little bits of paper. Now these are obviously from the Friday Freebie, so you don't have to use the whole lot. Just going to tear down. Now I've printed this onto rice paper. Now again, you don't have to use rice paper. You have, these are what I had it printed on anyway, so I thought I would use them. So I'm going to pop just some numbers. I think would look quite nice, don't you? Just like that. Or maybe let's take that out, put that down like that, and then we will have some numbers. I just think these are lovely. Now I think I will use just a little bit of this. It's nice that you guys can use the papers that I'm using from the Friday Freebie, because if you just starting out, it's quite nice to sort of try and follow along anyway, isn't it? Look at that. I just think that looks really lovely. Now I'm going to just stick it down. Just go for it. Now let's just, I'm just going to use my glue, but again use Mod Podge or whatever you've got to use. Is that on there straight? Do you think that's on there straight? I don't really want to go over it too much. Let's pop this one on there. We bring her down just a little bit. Just on top. And then what was I going to use? I was going to use this little bit here. Pop that on there. I'm going to pop that. I was going to pop that underneath, but I can just go there. Like that, which I love. Now I'm going to just take a little bit of the music paper actually, just pop it down there, which is lovely. Shall we add a butterfly? Do you think we need a butterfly? What colour? I think probably this little sort of purpley colour one. Let's just tear these off. And just put you there like that. Love it. Okay guys, so that is all I'm going to do for now. I'm just going to dry it for a second. perfect. Now what I'm going to do, now I do have, if I've got it here, this is my Stabilo. Okay, so I'm going to go in with my Stabilo. Now you don't have to, you can use watercolor paper. Oops, that's Jessie banging on the door. Let's just take my watercolor pencil, my watercolor brush I mean, just do a little bit. Now this is just going down the side of the paper. Now, I need to get some water coming out of here. There we go. Like that. So just a tiny bit. You don't have to use a lot. This has got black around it already, so we can just pop a little bit. You can see where, because it's rice paper, it's going to absorb some of the water from the pen. So I just want to pop a little bit of colour. I'm going to just go under here as well. It just gives it a little bit of depth to your painting or your work. Don't want to do too much because I don't want it to soak up too much in the paper. A tiny bit up here. Which I love. I think he looks really nice. And then this is the paper that we pop underneath. So you can just sort of see the outline of that one on there. Let's go over this a little bit more here. There we go. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to just go up along this little bit of line of the gold. Just down through here. Just like that. It's a little bit dark, I think, that one. Right, it's super simple, so just go with how you feel. Do you know what I mean? But that is the basic thing, so I'm just actually going to leave it like that. So let's just pop the lid on here. I'm going to just heat this tape up because I stuck it down. I'm going to heat it up a little bit because sometimes when you take it off it does rip the paper. So 2 seconds. By just heating it up, it just sort of like heats up the glue from your tape and it stops it sticking so much to your paper, and it just makes it come off really simple. So oops, a little bit there, and that is your beautiful mix media. Now I am loving that. Look at that, just beautiful. I am sure if you followed along, yours is probably even better than mine. So sometimes less is more, but I'm not good at that. I sort of like keep going, so you don't have to fill your page. You can just leave gaps as well. But I am loving that. So there we go, guys. I hope that was quite simple for you. So I would love to see them if you've done one. Please post it in my Facebook group. I will pop the link underneath the video. I really would love to see them. And if you're not in the Facebook group, I will leave my email address under the video and pop it in there. Send me a picture on email or on Instagram. Love it. All right, guys, well, thank you so much for joining me. Have a fantastic rest of the day. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you soon. All right, guys, bye-bye.